funeral will happen in my youth. That's a translated line from one of Indian rapper Sidhu Moosewala's latest singles, The Last Ride. Heartbreakingly, only weeks after that song's release, those lyrics would take on unforeseen meaning when their author was gunned down in an organized slaying. On Sunday, this 28-year-old rapper was driving near his village in Punjab state when he was ambushed and shot at dozens of times. According to reports, 8 bullets would find their mark, and Moosewala would be dead before he ever got to the hospital. With music that touched on the themes of violence, bravado, and machoism, particularly with respect to Punjabi men, Wala was an outspoken individual whose passing has left many with an empty feeling in their hearts. And now his fans are struggling to come to terms with the controversial circumstances revolving around his death. Who ordered the attack on Sidhu Moosewala, and what complicity do the local authorities have in what went down? We'll investigate that and a whole lot more as we take a look back at the life and career of one of rap music's most promising young stars, taken far too soon in this latest edition of Before They Were Gone. Sidhu Moosewala was born Shubdeep Singh Sidhu on June 11, 1993 to a Sikh family in a small village known as Moose in the Mansa district of Punjab, India. Not a whole lot is known about this man's childhood, but as a young man, he studied electrical engineering at Guru Nanak Dev Engineering College in Ludhiana, where he went on to earn his degree. My apologies for that pronunciation. Soon afterwards, he began to travel abroad, landing in Brampton, Ontario in 2016. That's where his life and career really began to take off. Having been an avid fan of hip-hop since the 6th grade, Moosewala was influenced heavily by listening to his favorite rapper, Tupac Shakur, before then developing his skills at the musical academy known as Harvinder B2 in Louisiana. Upon arriving in Canada, Moosewala would begin to put those skills into action, kicking off his career by writing the lyrics to the Punjabi artist known as Ninja's hit song, License. Following his first real taste of the music industry, Moosewala introduced the world to his own voice with his debut single, G-Wagon, in 2017. But he wouldn't truly break through and garner international attention until he dropped So High, a collaboration with Toronto-based music producer Big Bird. Drawing heavily from his aforementioned love for gangster rap, Moosewala's music heavily involved all the mainstays, talking about fast cars, gritty opulence, and yes, a whole bunch of gun violence. To many, his music offered a type of commentary on the dark underbelly of the rural heartland from which he emerged, something that few other Punjabi artists were willing to broach. He became especially popular among the Indian and Punjabi diaspora in countries like the UK and of course Canada. As such, most of his songs do have English titles, even though the songs themselves are largely performed in Punjabi. As his career exploded, he became lauded for his slick music videos and his 2018 debut album, PBX1, which would make it all the way onto Canada's Billboard Albums chart. At the same time he was blowing up in his adopted country of Canada, back home his voice would blare from DJ turntables all throughout Delhi and even to rural India when he was especially prevalent on nearly every possible radio channel broadcast in Punjab. As he'd continue to release a string of projects with titles like Snitches Get Stitches, Moose Tape, and No Name, his star would explode in faraway places like the UK, where he was named one of the best new artists of 2020 by The Guardian. But Moosewala wasn't only content to settle for a career in hip-hop. To begin with, he made his acting debut for Punjabi cinema with the film Yes I Am a Student, which was produced by his own production company known as Jat Life Studios. He would subsequently go on to star in a few other films, most notably the action picture Musa Jat. With his celebrity continuing to increase day by day, Moosewala decided his next step would be to throw his hand into the ring for public office by joining India's Congress Party and running in the state's assembly elections. At the time he stated, "I am not entering politics for status or to earn praise. I want to become a part of the system to transform it. I am joining the Congress to raise the voice of the people." He would garner somewhere around 36,000 votes, good enough for second place during the February state elections, and although he lost, his popularity continued to thrive, especially in his home village, whose betterment he constantly sought, telling those who voted for him, "This is why I chose to be known not by my name, but by that of my village." But only about 3 months later, following his defeat, Moosewala would be gone. On Sunday, May 29th at 4:30 p.m. local time, Moosewala left his home, got into his Jeep along with 2 other people, and took off. About an hour later, 3 other vehicles, one behind him and 2 alongside, would box Moosewala in and unleash over 30 rounds into the victim's car. Moosewala and his passengers were rushed to the Civic Hospital in Mansa, where he would be declared dead on arrival. By the following day, one of his passengers had succumbed to their wounds as well. Only a day prior to the attack, Punjab's government had actually pulled security cover for more than 400 individuals, including Musiwala, in an attempt to clamp down on what they referred to as VIP culture, but this move would spark controversy after the names of the people on the list were leaked to social media, with some pointing out that this naturally could have led to an increased threat on their lives. In the hours following the attack, a Canada-based gangster known as Goldie Brer, an alleged member of the Bishoni gang led by Lawrence Bishoni, would claim responsibility for what happened. This would lead the local authorities to believe the murder was a result of a rivalry between Musiwala and this organized crime group. In a statement to Facebook, Goldie Brer would write, "Musiwala was working against us. Delhi police had taken his name, but Musiwala used his political power and saved his skin each time." Musiwala's family has denied these accusations and taken issue with the Delhi police pursuing this line of investigation, suggesting that the police are just not doing their job properly by simply latching onto this claim. In the middle of all this, protests would erupt in several parts of the state as the singer's fans also expressed their dissatisfaction with how this crime is being handled, leading to the state's chief minister to order a high court level investigation as to what exactly happened here. Meanwhile, across the world in Surrey, British Columbia, home to Canada's second largest South Asian population, several hundred people gathered for a vigil to commemorate the star's life. Over the past few years, whenever Musiwala would perform here, his shows were generally chock full of gigantic security concerns. For instance, in 2019, the Surrey RCMP did a public safety assessment before ultimately determining that Musiwala's performance would have to be cancelled, citing instances of stabbing at a former Surrey concert as well as gunshots fired while Moose was performing at a Calgary event. But whatever the authorities may have to say about Musiwala or the type of crowds that he draws, his fans feel wholly different, with the organizer of the Surrey Vigil telling CBC he was a very popular star, a very gentle star. He was on the top of his career now, and he is no more. So that's a very heartbreaking thing. His fans aren't the only ones laminating this loss either, as Musiwala is also being grieved by his fellow artists like Canadian Indian hitmaker Nav, who shared a recent conversation he had with Wala upon hearing about his death. Even Drake paid tribute to the fallen artist with a post to his IG stories, sharing the simple sentiment, "R.I.P. Moose." It remains to be seen what the investigation into his death will uncover, but stay tuned to our news feeds to find out more as it breaks. As for right now, we simply want to offer our condolences to Musiwala's family and his millions of fans. And I mean, obviously we do film these videos in Toronto, which is not that far away from Brampton, and I personally do know people that were affected by this tragedy, so, you know, it really is an awful thing. His star burned brightly for only a short period of time, but it won't ever be forgotten. Rest in peace, Sidhu Musiwala.